First of all, apologies from Dr. Burton Shinners. He was supposed to do the address. He's down with flu. It's just that time of the year. But he does send his apologies and also best wishes that we all have a good conference. I thought I'd use this opportunity to, while I've got that slide, that's an aerial view of the new hospital, just to tell you a little bit about it. It's a 200-bed facility. It's pediatric, referral only, and it's quaternary. So it is not a walk-in facility. That is the referrals that will come from all of the state hospitals and other hospitals for the people that really need specialist care. In terms of equipment, I don't know if too many people have been, we can always organize tours, but really state of the art. And that banner that says opening soon, I think the wind tore it off, but really we are opening soon. Let's get there. All right, I've been introduced. I've spent most of my life in hospital information systems since the late 80s, both as a purveyor of systems, whether it's selling them, and also as on the receiving side. I was with Netcare with most of my life doing stints as a director of IT at the hospital division, and then also CIO. But I thought that seeing that we are all healthcare professionals, to quote the man after which the hospital was named, and you can all read, but really we're going to be judged at the end of the day by the way that we treat not only our patients, but more in particular our kids. So let's start. Why paperless hospital? This is or could be the billing and case management system at any hospital. And if we continue in that trend, then I guess that the vision for all of the things that we have is just not going to come to fruition. Let's start by saying we say we want a paperless hospital. So what are the limitations of paper records? First of all, they are illegible, and I think it's probably a prerequisite for people that study medicine. They undergo a test, and if you can read their handwriting, then they probably won't qualify. It's very difficult. So how do you carry that illegibility through all of the other systems? Storing it's a challenge. You have one copy if it's paper. The only way you share it is to give it to somebody else. So it's no longer yours; it's now his. And when you start annotating, it just becomes a disaster. There's a lot of talk, and I see there people specifically going to talk about the POPI Act and things like that. So I wonder what the POPI Act would say about the current paper systems, because that's in violation of just about every one of them. So digital documents, happy to say that they're easy to locate. If you look at an integrated system where the hospital information, the electronic health record, or the patient electronic record, we use different terms for sometimes the same thing. It's easy to access. To share it is easy. There's very strict access, authentication on who is able to see what, when, and how to add to it. Of course, it's encrypted, unlike paper. And I think that when it gets to paper, I recall being down in Cape Town at a facility who shall remain nameless. I was doing some sort of a time and motion study, and I was enthralled by the way that they retrieve patient records out of this. I thought it was an aeroplane hangar, but in fact it wasn't. It was their electronic health record store. And I complimented the lady and I said, I'm impressed that you got this, this file out for the doctor who's going to consult. And she says, yeah, it is a challenge, she says, but wait until somebody puts this in the wrong place when they bring it back. You know, that opens a whole new challenge. So in terms of paperless or paperless, you know, the first time I came across this paperless hospital was in a hospital in Taiwan. It was called Bumamgrad. And they told me that they had a paperless hospital, and that's why I went there. And when I got there, well, there was less paper, but it wasn't paperless. So I said to the medical director, now how do you enforce this electronic input into your health record? Because they did have a health record. Are all the doctors compliant? He says, no, they're not compliant. I said, well, how do you handle that? He says, very simple. If they don't enter it into the system, they can employ somebody to decipher his notes and then put it into the system. So that was typically a top-down enforcing that that method of wanting to. All right, I think one of the things to me is the item in bold. To me, it's not an electronic health record if all of the clinical documents in that continuum of healthcare is not available either real-time online or at least within 24 hours. That to me is the acid test. So the hospital of the future, let's talk about a digital hospital. I tried to get a definition of what is a digital hospital, and there's probably 20. I got this one from courtesy PwC, and I think it's to the point. It says it relies on technology as an integral and fundamental part of its business strategy. And that is key. It is not a standalone system. It is not an event. Very often it's a journey. And MEC, I saw in your presentation when, I think it was your second slide, where you had IT with meds and information on the other side of the chart. So I'd be intrigued after this presentation to maybe just ask you why information and information technology are not in the same block, because they are synonymous. The second point is that the digital hospital is really the nerve center of any hospital, and it is that enabler that allows you to start managing and leveraging off the system. The last one is it goes beyond just advanced clinical systems. You need to connect everything. We're in the age of IoT, and I'm sure if I ask Aki to say something about that, it will take an hour and he won't even get halfway through it. But at the Nelson Mandela Hospital, we made a decision. We said that we want to embrace, first of all, a fully integrated, hosted, outsourced hospital information, which not only caters for the clinical information system, but for the back end and all the rest of it. And we are really striving towards a paperless digital hospital. In the hospital, the only device that I know of, and I have people at the door that check these things, if it doesn't have an IP address, then it doesn't come in, although there's an analog clock in the theatre, so I don't know how that one got in. In terms of the infrastructure of a typical hospital, if there is such a thing as a typical hospital, but historically what we've done is we've got these little silos. Somebody says, well, I need a nurse call system. Yes, let's talk about patient entertainment, and what about some access control, and I need CCTV, and so it goes on and so it goes on. And you know, at the end of the day, very few of these things are integrated. And when I'm talking about integrated, I mean they talk to each other, and whether that is through some middleware, whether it's HL7, whether it's Diacom, I'm not going to get into the technicalities. The key function is, or the key end game to me, was that all of these things need to be connected. So, comes IP convergence. Suddenly, motor cars, fridges, you name it, they all have IP addresses. And this played right into what our vision was, to put a network in there. We selected, and I don't think the vendors are here, but we selected Cisco because they're the only HIPAA compliant medical grade network that you can get today, very strong on security. So the system as it stands will allow access to all of the patient information. When I say all, I'm talking about patient management, patient accounting, the electronic health record, and all of the modalities that are connected to this particular system. We're not at the point yet where we have a central vault which we can expose outside for physicians that are not in hospital to look at information, but the traditional virtual private network type technologies allow you to do that. So, very, very high level, and I'm not going to spend any time on this. You really have to aim to have a fully integrated system. Interoperability today is no longer the flavor of the month. If I've got to write little codes and this one talks to that one, you know, maybe you need one version of the truth, and the only way you get that is go for a fully integrated system, both clinical, hospital, and back-end systems. It has to come from one stable. The minute you start saying, yeah, but I'm using this system as the payroll or this as the other, that's when you're heading for trouble. So really all this slide says is that we have all of these modalities, we've got all of these processes, and if we have a proper backbone that supports this and we have a system that supports it, then all of this becomes reality. So I was happy to see somebody from the UK, from NHS, say your chief clinical information officer in May of this year said paperless 2020, which is a theme that they have, to go paperless. He says it's possible, but it's highly improbable. That intrigued me. So going back to a man that was more wise than a lot of us put together, it seems impossible until you do it. And I think if we embrace that as a positive attitude of getting things done, then maybe we'll get there. So I'll leave you with a thought. You get people that are reasonable, people that are unreasonable, and now you can see exactly, you know, how that one works. The world belongs to the guy that is unreasonable, agitated, he wants change. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Star. Thank you very much. Very interesting. I'm still trying to work out the chart that you posted just now, with all the funny language that you had over there. But it's a very sophisticated system, and this is the reality of the world that we're living in today. You know, you've got to make allowances, and I think security is the biggest challenge. You cannot have anything go wrong to the data and any kind of breaches. I mean, there was a hospital in Los Angeles, wasn't there, recently, that they were hacked into, and the hackers demanded a ransom, and the hospital paid the ransom over, you know. But
let's not go there.
Let's not go there. Okay, all right, I touched on a nerve. Thank you so much, lovely. Really give Joe a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.